Africans might find themselves paying more for eTolls. The new toll prices for South Africa have been gazetted. The adjusted prices come into effect at midnight on the 1st of March. The fee schedule for eTolls has also been published. For more on this, I'm joined by Wayne Duvenage from Outer. Wayne, on average, by how much have tolls across the country's major routes been increased?
This year, just around 3%. They normally go up CPI. I think the view that we have is in these times and uncertainty and with all the costs that businesses are having to grapple with, there shouldn't have been any increase. But yeah, it's about 3% this year.
And is that the same for eTolls as well?
Yeah, so across the board. But if you look over the last decade or so, the toll costs have gone, and eTolls hasn't run for a decade, but just generally over 90%. And this is ahead of inflation. Motorists are overtaxed when it comes to fuel levies, when it comes to tolls, when it comes to excise duties, and everything else with vehicles. So it's just another tax on the motorist, which is and especially when it comes down to freight moving around the country, a lot of it is done by road. It is an expensive cost.
So as you were saying there, many people have lost their jobs or received reduced pay for months on end. So we are all questioning whether this is the right time to increase tolls, given that government is also trying to put in place an economic recovery plan to recover from COVID-19.
Exactly. You're quite right. One would have expected government not to increase tolls this year around. 3% is still 3%. It adds to the cost of living and the cost of transportation. But as you know, the eTolls saga here in Gauteng, there's about 18% of road users are paying. So it has pretty much been a very successful defiance campaign. And we expect the plug to be pulled on that scheme any minute.
Do you think, given the revelations of widespread looting being made almost on a daily basis at the State Capture Inquiry, that people will be far less inclined to pay eTolls and that we could see a reduction in that 18%?
Absolutely. It's been declining since 2014 when they were up at 40%, and the scheme needed about 90% to survive or to achieve its goals. 40% was always going to be a stretch. That's dropped right down. And we see every day more and more people giving up paying because they cannot prosecute. They cannot do anything about it. Rather have the money in your account than in SANRAL's account on this matter. They are getting the funds, by the way, from Treasury. They have been since eTolls launched, and they weren't collecting the money. This is urban infrastructure, which should be funded through taxes, as it should be. So we see that is happening. So anybody paying is just wasting their money.
Where is this standoff heading, or has government effectively just parked the issue?
I think they've parked it because of a couple of things. I think they've resolved or come to the conclusion that eTolls isn't working. It never will work in this country for a number of reasons. And it's not like a boom down toll plaza where you have a 100% hit rate. This is a drive now, pay later. They've realized they've failed. So what they're doing is they're waiting for the latest tender to happen. There are other reasons and ways you can put the transaction clearinghouse processes and gantries to other use, integrated payment systems for other toll routes, for parking, for trains and so forth. That's a good way of using the stuff, the infrastructure they've already paid for. But the fact, the eTolls itself, I think they've come to the conclusion that they are going to have to pull that plug. They've just got to wait for this tender to happen, get that behind them. It was subjected to a litigation challenge recently. They've got that behind them. So once that decision has been made and the new operator, the transaction clearinghouse operator, has been given the go-ahead, I think shortly thereafter we'll hear announcements from government that eTolls will be pulled.
Wayne, despite the fact that many people are working from home still, even though we are now under a reduced level 3 lockdown, many South Africans, and especially Joburgers, have recently been complaining about potholes. We've seen a story here on eNCA saying that we have thousands of potholes in the city, very little being done about them. It might be a minor issue when compared to eTolls, but where is our argument? What's happening with potholes? What's the recourse for thousands of motorists who constantly have to replace their tyres?
Yeah, so firstly, eTolls is a national competence run by SANRAL on routes that are SANRAL's routes, national roads. And the Joburg municipal roads are run and managed by Joburg's Roads Agency or the Joburg City. I don't have to tell you that local government, even in the metros like Joburg, are relatively bankrupt. They don't have the funds they need. They are way behind. They have ineptitude. They have problems with regards to management. And this is a general problem around the country with local government. We have local elections coming up. And I think the people now, public, need to make their message very clear to political systems. And it is the politicians ultimately who've given rise to this demise in local government. We need to see local independent candidates coming to the fore, people that have the ability to run our cities, do it properly. Political parties have demonstrated over the last number of years, decades, that they are unable to rule in the best interests of the public. They rule due to party caucus lines and decisions, and pretty much have messed up most of our cities and towns. So that's why they will struggle to get on top of this road problem. It's not just potholes. They need to resurface roads. Infrastructure is decaying. They have spent far less, around about 2% of the carrying value of the assets, and the Treasury's guideline is 8% over the last number of years. And that's why you see the M2, for instance, in Joburg having to be closed down for nearly a year so they can get the proper repairs done, which they haven't been doing over a number of years. So this is the failure of local government due to failed political systems. And there's a lot of work to do in that regard to fix our municipalities and metros.
Thank you very much, as always, Wayne Duvenacher from Outer speaking to us there.